Hello, how you doing? It's Phil Thatcher, and today I'm down at the Chickamauga Dam and the Tin Bridge Railroad Bridge, and I've brought something new and old. It's the best camera I never had. I just bought a used Nikon D850. Thing's in great condition with about 10,000 clicks on it, and I'm pretty excited to have it. And honestly, I bought this camera to do landscape photography with, but I'm in a bird photography mood and I want to use my new camera, so I put my old 200 to 500 on it, and I've come down here to the dam and I'm going to see what I can get. I've already made a few shots of various things. I think I might have gotten a tree swallow and maybe a vulture and maybe English house sparrow, and now I'm just going to keep on going and see what else I can find. But in the meantime, let's take a look at those pictures and see if this old D850, I almost called it a D500, see if this old D850 can do any good. I'm sure it can. And today I'm shooting f8. There's a lot of light out here, and I don't trust the autofocus system in this camera to be perfectly on as I do in some of my mirrorless cameras. So I'm going to shoot at f8 to kind of make sure to get more of the bird in focus, including the eye. And let's keep working. Here is my first shot from the Chickamauga Dam, and this is a female English house sparrow, which are invasive over here in the United States, and looks like she has some food for some youngsters. She's got a mouthful of bugs and critters to take to her young. This is 1/1000th and f8, which is where I stayed for a pretty good little while this morning, and ISO 280 on automatic ISO. And this file is more than 4K in size, but I cropped it a bunch. So the D850 is the most croppable camera I've ever owned with its 45 or so megapixels. Here's a shot that wasn't cropped nearly as much of a black vulture hanging around in the grass near the Chickamauga Dam. This one's 500 millimeters 1/1000th f8, and ISO 720 is where this one landed. Just a beautifully ugly bird, the black vulture. Here's a tree swallow. There's a little motion blur in this. It lost its balance and put its wings up, but I still like the shot, even though there's some motion blur. 500 ISO for this one, and just a beautiful bird. I love their iridescent feathers. Here's another black vulture. This one is perched on a cross beam on one of the huge power towers for the power lines that run near the dam. It almost looks like what it's perched on is wood, but that's metal. And I love the way the bokeh looks in the background on this, even though this is at f8. 1/1000th, 410 millimeters and ISO 900 with the D800. I meant to take a moment and remove this beak of another vulture that's nearby, but I forgot to, so just imagine that's not there. Here's another tree swallow. This one's on one of the signs there at the dam, and I like to sometimes put the pilings that hold up the railroad bridge in the background because I like their concrete, but I like the way the rust from the metal above them runs down and makes a pretty color, and it contrasts nicely with a tree swallow. ISO 360 on this one and 500 millimeters, 1/1000th of a second, f8. I'm pretty sure I just got a palm warbler along this little path right here, so that's pretty cool. Last time I saw a palm warbler, I was in Walt Disney World. I have two keepers of the palm warbler. They're on the rocks, and this is the first one, 280 ISO on this one, 500 millimeters. And this one is also 280 ISO and 500 millimeters. I was really happy with both of these shots. They're cropped a fairly good amount, but there's still lots of detail. So really nice using the D850. You would think 500 millimeters on full frame wouldn't be enough, but that's because I'm used to 24 megapixel full frame cameras. When they have 20 extra megapixels, they're usable for bird photography with only 500 millimeters. Here's another black vulture. It's sunning itself on a rock. You can see the Tennessee River in the background. 280 ISO on this one as well, a 500 millimeter shot. And this is that same black vulture. This is on the same rock, but now it's not sunning itself as much. This one's also 280 ISO. It's 410 millimeters. The previous shot was 500. This one's only 410. This is a pair of black vultures on a branch, and the way they're perched, I don't know if you're a big fan of the Disney attraction Splash Mountain, but before you go up the big hill to go down and drop, there's a pair of black vultures that are animatronics that look just like this. and I like the way this shot came out just from a Disney World point of view. I wish this other bird wasn't over here on the left-hand side, but otherwise it's pretty cool. And it's 800 ISO, 410 millimeters f8, and 1/1000th of a second. This bird was in the shadows and it had bright sun in the background, so I had to raise the shadows and lower the highlights quite a bit in this shot, but it still came out kind of okay. I really didn't think I would end up sharing this, but it came out better than I thought it would. It is 800 ISO and f8 and 1/1000th of a second, 500 millimeters. I don't know why I never bought a D850. You know, there's probably a lot of reasons. First of all, I bought my D800 kind of a couple of years into their lifespan, and right after I bought it, not too long after I bought it, they came out with the D800E and then the D810, and you know, I had spent all that money, because D800s are not inexpensive cameras. When they first come out, they're over $3,000, and I'd spent all that money, and just really quick, I didn't have the latest greatest camera anymore, which was kind of a little bit of a downer. And also, I mentioned in another video, my camera bag, the strap came undone while I was at Disney World one time at Epcot, and my D850 dropped and it busted it, and I've still got it held to, my D800 dropped and busted, and I've still got it held together kind of right here and here with super glue. So that was the last high-resolution camera I bought, high-resolution full-frame camera I bought. Since then, I've bought Z6s and Canon R6s, you know, the 24 megapixel camera, not the 36 or 45 megapixel camera. But when my friend had this one available, he just upgraded to a Z8, and man, what a great camera he got. But what a great camera I got too. It's kind of cool to have the last great DSLR, even though it's no longer the flagship. You know, as far as 45 megapixel cameras, after this, they've had the Z7, the Z7 II, the Z9, and the Z8 have all been the same resolution as this. But anyway, to be able to get this one for a nice price is handy, and I'm enjoying shooting with it. You know, the tripod collar I've had trouble with on this 200 to 500 for a long time. The threads that you screw your tripod plate onto have been kind of out of whack, and I was trying to fix them and I just made them worse. So I just ordered a new tripod foot, the entire collar and foot with an Arca Swiss plate built in, a third-party one, and that should be in a few days, so I'll show you that at some point. But I thought I might work from home in the blind, but to work from home in the blind, I have to put the camera on a tripod. So that's why I decided to come here, because I can walk around and it doesn't matter if my tripod collar and foot are messed up. But anyway, the D850. Let's get some more pictures. I found an American robin over here in kind of a shadowy area in the grass, kind of at the edge of the river park and the edge of the Chattanooga State campus behind me. And I started making some shots of it really quick. I got down low and started making some shots, and I knew that my ISO was going to be through the roof at f8 and 1/1000th. So I zipped my shutter speed down really quick to 1/500th, then I opened it up to wide open 5.6. And the point of me talking about all this is just to say that this D850, it feels like an old friend, even though it's the first time I've been out shooting with it. All the buttons are right where I'm used to them being on a Nikon camera, and it just feels like an old friend, and it was easy to just instantly get it exactly where I wanted in terms of settings. Here's the robin, and this one I slowed down to 1/500th of a second and shot wide open at f5.6. And even though it's in the shade, it's only 1250 ISO, so that worked out good. Kind of a scraggly looking American robin, but I was happy to get this photograph of it. I just happened to catch an osprey flying by. This one's cropped pretty much as well, and I'm using 7.1 now instead of f8, and this is 1/1000th and ISO 220. Here's a super up close shot of a great blue heron. Lots of detail in this. I'm up to 1/1600th of a second now, f7.1, ISO 500. Now I've come out here right to the end of the fishing pier to see if I can get some birds in flight. I've shifted my focus mode to D25 instead of single point for this. Here's a great blue heron in flight. and it was actually flying just below me there while I was up high on the fishing pier. This is 380 millimeters, 1/1600th of a second, ISO 640. And the same flyby, I've got this shot, and the next shot I got was this one. And now it's over the rocks instead of over the water. And it's almost the exact same wing position. And it is the same flyby. And let's see, that one's ISO 640 and this one is ISO 500. I kind of like both of them. This one's sharper, but I like the background better of this one. So I shared them both with you. Here's a double-crested cormorant in flight, 220 ISO on this one. This one's 1/1600th of a second and f7.1. This was a great blue heron that was perched over on the rocks on the side of the river, and I saw it fly out to the middle, and I caught it while it was splashing down. You can see a dead fish floating on the top of the Tennessee River, and that's what he's after. 450 ISO for this one. A little bit out of focus, but I like the picture so much I decided I had to share it with you. But there is definitely some focus issues right here, as you can see when I go 100%. And then the bird, after he grabbed the fish and swallowed it, he turned around and went straight back over to the shore, and this shot is much better in focus. ISO 360 on this one, and you can see definitely did a better job focusing on this shot. This is a different great blue heron that's flying upriver, and he's going to bank over to our left and his right and land on those rocks, and he's putting on the brakes. I just love these extra feathers right here that are interesting. This one is 400 ISO. I'm still shooting at 1/1600th and f7.1. Here's a great blue heron wading, as wading birds do, and you can see the reflection of the concrete piling for the railroad bridge. This one's 400 ISO and only 420 millimeters. Just a beautiful great blue heron fishing in the Tennessee River. Look at this great blue heron. It's licking its chops, and this is 360 ISO, a 500 millimeter shot. And I just happened to be getting this ultra close-up shot when it stuck its tongue out, as you can see right here, and it licked it's not its lips, it licked its beak on this side, and then it licked its beak on the other side. I got that shot too, but you can't see the tongue because it's on the wrong side. Lots and lots of detail in this will make it 100%. Just oodles of detail in this shot. 45 megapixels is no joke, especially when you can fill the frame. Now this is much higher up on the bank. Another great blue heron. This is a different one, and you can see the railroad bridge piling there, and there's one at the edge of the frame. This is another 360 ISO shot, still shooting at 1/1600th. I had pretty good sun angle for these, and I'm happy with the way this turned out. All right, this is a little bonus section. I've actually already left the dam, and I said bye-bye at the dam, so you'll see that clip in a minute. But I stopped by here at the trailhead that goes to the Summit Knobs Equestrian Trail because I thought it'd be easy to get some shots of these rough-winged swallows that have a nest right in the end of that gate. Oh, actually the bird just flew out of the nest. It's right at the end of that pipe where the little piece of chain is. And I set the camera, hung it out the window of the car. As you can see, I'm just sitting here in the car with the D850 and the 200-500. And I focused on the end of that pipe with where the little chain is, and I waited for a bird to fly into the frame, and I just started shooting. And you know, this camera's only 7 frames per second, but I did manage to get a shot of the bird just about to enter the pipe, so that's pretty cool. And then the birds also perched a couple of times, and I got some shots of them. It's a little bit late, and it's a full sunny day, and the sun angle's a little too high, so the shots aren't that great, but I thought it was cool. And let's take a look at the shots with the D850 of the rough-winged swallows. This is the swallow shot. It's completely airborne, although I wish I had caught it just a little further back. That's the difference between 7 frames per second with this camera and 120 frames per second with a new Sony A9 III. I probably would have caught much more usable shots, but this one's okay. There is some motion blur in it. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have been much faster on my shutter speed than 1/1250th. I'm only at 320 ISO. I could have bumped that up to 1/2500th, and my ISO would only have been 640, I believe. But I'm still pretty happy with the shot. I love these huge looking, but they're not really all that big chain links, and the bird's going in there to tend to its young that are, this is the second year they've had babies up in this pipe for the gate there. Pretty cool shot, even with the motion blur. And now here is one of the swallows up above the nest, perched on the chain, and just look how huge that tiny bird makes that chain look. But the chain's not that big. And this one is 1/1250th, which is fine for a perched bird, and 200 ISO. And let's see, I think I got one more. This is, you can see this signpost right here to the right of this bird. And this is the very top of that signpost, 450 ISO for this one. This is the other of the two adult rough-winged swallows. And I really like the way this one turned out as well. I thought about just going straight home, and as I was on the way home, I said, you know what, I'm going to see if those swallows are there, and I'm glad I did. Well, I've had a fun morning out with my brand new old D850 and my extra old 200 to 500 f5.6 lens here at the Chickamauga Dam. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, reach down, hit the thumbs up button. That helps me out a bunch. And if you want to see some more content like this, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye.